topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talkboard TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Dallas, Fort Worth, and let me say Texas, because this show is going throughout the state of Texas. It's that important of a show. Hey, welcome. Today is finally here, Election Day. Hey, get out there and vote. No matter who you're voting for, get out there and vote. This is a very important election, and we hope you will. I heard the lines in some places aren't that long, and some places are, but it doesn't matter. Get out there and do the right thing. Hey, this morning, this is the first Tuesday of the month. I never realized how important a show topic could be until we started getting all your letters, and we have had one of the greatest doctors, Dr. Tim Usselton, on with us at the Trinity Integrated Medical Center. And I got to tell you, I have learned so much about neuropathy that I feel so much for people who are suffering through neuropathy. And Tim has almost dedicated his life to treating neuropathy. Good morning, Tim.
Yeah. You doing well today?
Doing good. I know you've had some bad weather there. I hope it won't affect the show, but I got to tell you, it's so amazing what you do with your neuropathy treatments.
Well, I appreciate that introduction. It's a very serious condition that most of the general practitioners don't have an answer for. If I had a nickel for every time someone sat in my office and said that their doctor said nothing can be done, but yet we were able to help them because we have a totally different approach to treating the neuropathy. So I'm glad to be on the show again this month and look forward to our discussion.
Yes, and we will, for those, if you miss any part of the show, we'll be rerunning the show in 2 weeks. We always replay the show. It's that important. Tim, tell people about Trinity Integrated Medical.
Trinity Integrated Medical is my practice here in Carrollton, Texas, just north of Dallas, in the DFW Metroplex of Texas. And I started it back in 1999, and throughout the years we've evolved and become focused on different things. In about 2018, we got really focused on neuropathy. I got board certified by the American Academy of Physical Medicine, and so now with that, it really allows us to go to the next level and offering these patients with neuropathy some hope that they can have their condition reversed. And we've been doing that strong since 2018. We're always evolving with the times, and as new technology and science comes out, then we're on the cutting edge of it. We're right on the forefront of that, leading the industry, I believe. And so because of that, we're getting referrals from all across not only our great city, but across the state, and even out-of-state customers now are starting to seek us out. So it's been exciting to see the lives change, and especially in people's lives that have been told there's nothing that can be done about it. And we're here to say that that's not always the case. So,
yeah, Tim, I remember our last show, we had somebody from San Antonio who called. This is such an important topic. Tim, I got to tell you, I am so impressed where chiropractic care has come from and to where it is now.
Absolutely. Just 30 years ago when I got into the profession, we were just back doctors. And, we knew all along as chiropractors that we actually have a great effect on the nervous system. We're really more like nerve doctors.
Right.
We reduce the interference along the nerve paths that cause that pain that shoots or radiates to be decreased because of the pressure that we relieve from the nerves. And that's really one of the biggest differentials that we have to look at in neuropathy cases, because when people, if they just Google "my feet are numb," they'll get back that they have neuropathy. And it could be actually that they have more of a radiculopathy. Now, that's a big fancy word, but it just means a radiating pain, which means it starts in one place and shoots to another place. If it's a pain in the lower back that shoots down into the feet, then it's a pressure on one of those lumbar nerves that goes down. And the treatment for that condition is vastly different than the treatment for the true neuropathy case, which neuropathy in and of itself is when the nerve begins to actually sustain damage at the nerve level, in the feet, in the hands, in those most distal places, the furthest points away from the heart. Why does that happen? It happens because of blood flow. The damage to the arterial blood flow in and around those nerves happens at the most furthest point away from the heart. So it's like if you've got a garden hose running way out into the middle of a field and it's pumping water to a tree and keeping it alive. And then if you have some sort of damage in and around that tree, around that hose, so to speak, that's going out to that tree, then that tree is what's going to suffer, not necessarily along the hose all the way. So it goes to the furthest point, wherever that blood flow goes, and when it's damaged there, that's where the nerve deteriorates. So we treat those conditions differently, but it's very important to know and get the proper diagnosis. So probably maybe 10 to 20% of our customers that come in here saying, "I have neuropathy, I'm here for a neuropathy consultation," they actually have a radiculopathy, which means there's pressure on the nerve closer to the spine. It's like putting a brick on the garden hose way up close to the faucet, and then the tree starts to feel the symptoms. So we have to diagnose the proper, give the patient the proper diagnosis to be able to move forward with any success.
Here's a great text we just got in. This is from Mary in Arlington. She said, "I am so glad you are offering a show like this. My mother is coming down in January, and I'm going to make an appointment with the doctor. I think she has neuropathy. My question is, I see all these ads on the internet for cures for neuropathy, from certain shoes to elastic bands. What is your thoughts on all these maybe crazy things out there on the internet?"
You got to be careful. Going through the board certification and the studies and the testing and all of the work that we did to get to where we are, we definitely learned that there's a lot of false, fraudulent information out there. And it all really comes down to whatever you're doing to increase the circulation to the nerves that are dying. When the nerves begin to die, it's because the circulation has been diminished. And if we can catch it earlier, then obviously we have a much greater chance of helping you as a patient with neuropathy. The longer you let it go, by definition, it is a degenerative condition. And so if you just let nature take its course and think it's going to get better on its own, it doesn't. It gets worse over time, not better. So if we can catch it early, the better. The earlier, the better. But as far as the specific gimmicks, there's so many out there. And once you start looking around on Google, Google's an amazing machine, but it targets you then. In fact, people have just talked about cat food being low in their house, and they don't even own a cat, but next thing you know, they're getting cat food information on their phone. So you got to be careful about what you get into, and just be sure that what you do look into is something that would be recommended by a doctor, not just by someone selling a gadget on the internet, right?
Tim, so someone's listening to the show right now, and they have, what are all the symptoms that people should look for when they might have neuropathy?
That's a great question. The most common are things that relay the symptom along the nerve to your brain. So what would those things be carried along the nerve to your brain include? Things like numbness, tingling, burning. People report that it feels like their feet are on fire, like they look down and see, where are the fire ants? And there aren't any. It's just the symptom they're feeling. It could be that they're super cold. Some patients report that they can't wear certain shoes anymore because of the pressure it puts on the feet and those nerves. Or they report something as simple as they can't cover up at night underneath the sheets and blankets on their bed because the pressure and the feeling, the sensation that they get down in the feet. So, but what's interesting though, one of the most common symptoms that gets people to actually commit to coming into the office is when they fall. So why does a person fall? They can't feel the ground underneath
balance.
So then they begin to fall. They lose that coordination. They lose that balance. They fall. And then sometimes they even break a bone or they break a hip, have damage to their socket in their hip because that's what hits the ground first. And then all along you say, well, what made you fall? And they say, oh, I've had numb feet for several years. And at that point, it's getting too bad. It's too far gone. So it's very important. As soon as you start to feel that symptom, get it checked because you're much more likely to be able to get it fixed without suffering the end all be all of a fall or a broken hip.
Tim, I don't want to scare anybody, but we need to get people in your office that for treatment. What happens if you don't take care of this?
Well, we've probably all heard of someone that had maybe a toe or even a foot amputated, right?
Yes.
That is the end result. So once that blood flow starts to diminish around the nerve then starts sending those crazy signals to your brain, and your brain's trying to interpret those signals. And it's very confused because it's 1 minute they're feeling cold, the next minute they're feeling hot, 1 minute they're numb, next minute they're in pain, next minute they feel like they've got creepy crawlies crawling around on them like ants. And it's no different than when you turn that light switch on and the light bulb flickers, right? The bulb is trying to figure out, am I going to be on or am I going to be off, or am I going to blink a little or am I going to blink a lot? But all you know is that you can't predict what it's going to happen. It's just going to flicker and it may stop, it may continue, it may go off and not come back on. Those are exactly what's happening when this interference, lack of blood flow to the nerves happen. And so it's like numb, then tingling. And so what we've got to do is just basically go in there and learn how much damage is done, because the further on that scale down the diminished blood flow goes, the more likely it is the tissue then dies. And once that tissue dies without that nerve supplying the information to and from the brain, then the Western medicine says, well, let's just cut it off. Let's just cut our losses, because if not, it's going to continue to go up closer and closer. So someone might lose a toe, then they might lose 2 more toes, then they might lose half a foot, then they might lose their foot at the ankle. We've had patients come in here that have known people that have lost their leg from the knee down. So it definitely can get worse and worse and worse over time. So we're here to stop people from going down that path of just letting nature take its course, or just relying on drugs like Cymbalta or gabapentin. The most common prescribed drugs are things like Cymbalta and gabapentin. Most of our patients are on gabapentin. But if you fast forward to the very end, what's ironic is that people that have the amputated toes, they're actually on gabapentin for years most of the time, because the gabapentin is not changing the problem. It's not fixing the actual root cause of the problem, which is poor blood flow. It's dying off blood vessels. Why do those blood vessels die in the big picture? It's due to inflammation. Inflammation can be in the form of diabetes that's causing all these fires to pop up all over your body and the soft tissues, the spikes in the blood sugar, improper diet and poor nutrition. Sometimes trauma or osteoarthritis can cause damage to those blood vessels. So there's lots of reasons why, but ultimately down to the physiological level, it's poor blood flow or lack of blood flow that we attack and go after. We go after it from a standpoint of structure in the body, from a standpoint of what the nerves actually do and can perform like, as well as, very importantly, almost most importantly, the metabolic health of the tissue. And that's where all that spiking blood sugar and all those inflammatory responses actually start. A lot of times they're in the gut because you're not getting the proper nutrition from the food or supplements that you take. And so we believe in changing the metabolic health of a person. And it's like kind of fertilizing the soil so that the plant can then grow better. And so we're trying to get nerves to regenerate. We change the condition of the soil, which is the cellular level of the tissue in the body. So that's our approach, structurally, neurologically, as well as metabolically.
Kelly in Waco wants to know, what if I have swelling in my ankles? Could that be neuropathy?
It could be neuropathy. The most common diagnosis with swelling would be an edema or a lymphedema, and that's usually where the tissue that produces all of the waste products that goes into the tissue, it's supposed to be flushed out, like it's like the drain on your sink, right? If it's not draining, the sink starts to back up. So if that lymphatic tissue and that cellular debris is not draining into your lymphatic system, it starts to back up. And so you get swollen feet or swollen ankles, then your shoes don't fit. That can then damage the nerves, that puts pressure on them, and they say, oh, I start to feel numb, or I start to feel tingling, or I start to feel pain. So it's kind of like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, one creates the other, which creates the other. And so it's a vicious cycle there. You got to get the lymphedema out of there. You got to that lymphatic system open again and unclog the drain. You can bail water out of the sink all you want, but the problem is in the drain. And once you roto-rooter that out, now how do you do that with lymphatics? You create lymphatic drainage through proper nutrition, through proper water intake. Sometimes side effects of medication include that stagnating tissue that causes that lymphedema. Sometimes you can just simply elevate the feet at night and wake up with much smaller feet. That's why compression socks are very commonly prescribed. When a person comes in with lots of lymphedema, then they just compress it, squish it out, basically. It's like forcing it into the lymphatic system to drain out. Great question.
Tim, do you have to change your patients' diets?
Oh, yeah.
When you do, when they have neuropathy?
Absolutely. Like I said, the metabolic health is one of the, if not the most important aspects of what it is we do here. Without that, it's like, I go back to the kind of the drain example. If you're in a boat and you got a hole in the bottom of your boat and you're sitting out in the middle of the pond, you're going to be bailing all day, but you're never going to fix the problem because you've got this source of water coming into your boat. Well, in our system, our nutrition and the supplementation and our gut health is so vitally important that if it's clogged or if it's not working properly, it's creating all these issues down in the feet and in the toes. And we go down there to the toes, and that's like bailing water out of the boat. Like, it's going to keep coming back until you really address the problem, which a lot of times is a metabolic problem, which by metabolic, I just mean the health of the tissue. The health of the tissue is derived through proper nutrition.
Tim, there are so many people out there that go, wow, what kind of, I'm suffering from this pain. What kind of doctor should I see? Should I go to an orthopedic surgeon? I'm going to tell people right now that, first of all, Tim knows neuropathy. And just because you have an MD at the end of your name doesn't mean you know. And I've learned after doing all these shows, after all these years, that here you've got a doctor who specializes in neuropathy and has treated so many people that you don't have to go to an orthopedic surgeon. And Tim knows more than most of them anyway, right, Tim?
Well, I don't know about that, but I work in conjunction with lots of MDs, orthos, and neurologists. They don't look at it from the same perspective that we do as a board certified neuropathy doctor. We're trained a little different, and it's no knock on them. Most people do what they've been trained to do, and the ones that do it better than others succeed. But most of the time, when you're dealing with an MD or a neurologist or an orthopedist, they're going to start with a medication. They believe that at the cellular level, they can manipulate through something pharmaceutical the end result. But that manipulation is not necessarily bringing more blood flow to actually heal the nerve over time. It's just disconnecting that pain, that acute pain you're in. It hurts right now. I take a pill and it calms it down. But in the big picture, that pill's not going to do anything to actually fix the problem. So we can work in conjunction oftentimes. Oftentimes patients come in here and they want to get off of the neurotonin or gabapentin, it's called. And so if they want to get off of that, it's a challenge because oftentimes they've been on it for a long time. And, the higher the dose they're on, the longer they have to titrate down off of it. You can't just stop cold turkey. I've had patients do it successfully. but we don't usually recommend that. We say take a half dose for a couple of weeks, then take a half dose of that for a couple of weeks. And if you're ever interested in really how to do it, there are some good reputable sites on the internet that you can go in and say, how do I safely and most effectively get off of gabapentin? And it'll show you a schedule that says, here's how you can do it. You can take it over 6 weeks or you can take it over 12 weeks. But when you get off of that, then the true symptoms are there and they're present. Now we can really address them. While you're on the medication, oftentimes the results of what we're doing, we can't see as well because it's like, well, you know, my head hurts so bad I need to go to the doctor. When I show up to the doctor, I say, well, I just took a bunch of Tylenol, so it doesn't hurt so bad right now. And the doctor's going, well, I kind of need to see you when you're at your symptoms so I can test you and figure out what's causing them. Right now, it's just a numbed body due to the medication. So we like to help people if they are so desiring to get off the medication, help them get off of that. Of course, we report that back to their doctors. Oftentimes they go back in and say, hey, I got off of the medication that I was on because I was on it for X amount of months and I didn't feel any long-term change or benefits and I didn't like the way I felt on it. I had this foggy brain, and that kind of goes back into our metabolic health. And so if we can get the gut health working, get the foggy brain down, and the medication is not quite as necessary, that's what most people are desiring and after.
So you actually treat the cause, not the symptom.
That's it. Bingo. Yeah. We could, back to the tree in the middle of the field that's dying because it hasn't rained in a long time. You run a garden hose out to it and you drip water to it and you bring the source back to life. Now, on the other hand, if you didn't take the water out to it, but you went out to that tree and you saw the dead branches and you started to cut them away, you get a little boost now of growth. You start to fertilize the ground around the tree and you start to get a little growth. But if there's a hose laying there and you can create repair to the hose and take the bricks off of it that's creating that pressure, then it's like all that other stuff is ancillary. It's the source is the nerve. And when the nerve is damaged or dying, you've got to fix the source of the nerve, not just fertilize the ground around the nerve, right? That's what medication oftentimes does.
Well, Tim, I know we've been doing the show for a while. I know you're a very humble person, but I'm going to ask you this. Why should I come to Trinity Integrated Medical for my neuropathy?
Great question. Well, one is results. The results that we have on patients that have been sitting in our office that say, we have been told there's nothing. I almost canceled my appointment because my doctor said, you shouldn't go. There's nothing that can be done. And then when I start to explain the process and give them a little taste and they say, wow, after 20 minutes, I actually felt a little change in my feet on this treatment. We have treatments in the office as well as at home. We've expanded to such a large territory of patients now. We had to adopt a program that people can implement in the comfort of their own home, not only because they sometimes are far away from us, like a patient that I have in Las Vegas, and of course the San Antonio patient we talked about last month. But not only that, but oftentimes these patients are confined to a wheelchair or they're confined to their couch and they don't even get out because they don't have a good wheelchair or any ability to get here or drive. And so I consult with them and ship them what it is they might need at home to get the process started, get the ball rolling and minimize the damage and decrease that damage and start to reverse the problem. And so, yeah, it's important to know that you're going to a place that is confident. They've seen cases like yours before and they can help. It's important, I think, to be board certified because not does that just carry weight, but the knowledge, the information that we're able to present to patients, it really allows them to kind of have the light bulb go on over their head, so to speak. And they go, aha, I get it. I've been wrong all this time. No wonder the gabapentin hasn't helped. I have this conversation oftentimes that say, I found the problem and now I understand why you haven't gotten the success or the results that you wanted because what they're treating is not the cause of the problem. And we're actually going to get to the cause. That'd be, I guess, the reason why I'd say come see us at Trinity or call us, trinityintegratedmedical.com or the number on the screen there. That's directly to our office. You can set up an appointment with me and I'll be happy to sit down and talk with you in the comfort of your own home before you make that decision to actually come into our office. If you can get here, then we can do the testing more appropriately. If we do it over telemedicine, if you're too far away or can't get here, then it's a little bit more challenging, but we've still been successful at doing it that way.
For those who are listening on radio or podcast, the number is 972-478-5538. That's Trinity Integrated Medical. Tim is with us the first Tuesday of each month, and we replay the show in 2 weeks. Tim, thank you so much. We're so blessed to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. And anybody that's ever watching this, I don't know if you have the ability to text me directly or just always text Evo. But if you have questions, if there's something you really want to hear, if you have a specific something about you or your parents that you want answered, by all means, reach out to us and we'll prepare for that and have it on your next show.
You're the best, Tim. That's Tim Uselton. Thank you, Tim. We'll see you again next month. And have a happy Thanksgiving, bro.
You too.
That's Tim Uselton. He's an amazing doctor. I mean, if you have a friend who's suffering through neuropathy, he's the best. We're going to go to a short break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.